well, I know what a couple 100 million looks like. Let's go do that. Getting rid of the word balance for me was a freedom. Like, I would actually push you away first to see if it's right for you to come back. Unfortunately, I had a lot of trial and error. So it was kind of cool what you do there, Vic. We just hire you. How's that?
Barb Reppert is a CPA, CMA, and certified executive coach who spent over 20 years in the C-suite, including CFO and COO roles, before founding her current business, Executive Impact. She's worked at Deloitte, steered companies through turnarounds, and now coaches executives and entrepreneurs on leadership, decision-making, and what she calls integration, the idea that you don't have to choose between a fulfilling career and a meaningful personal life. She also works as a business execution specialist with Results Canada and hosts the Executive Impact Show podcast. Her signature program includes Integrator's Edge for leaders transitioning from doer to leader. Barb, welcome so much to MemberFix Radio.
Thank you, Vic. I appreciate it.
Barb, I'd love to give people some kind of introduction and then let them introduce themselves because you know you best. So please give us the 60-second version of who you are and what Executive Impact is all about.
Oh, that's perfect. Because when you read that off, Vic, I'm like, oh, it looks like I just collected a bunch of letters. And I thought, oh, I could just put the alphabet on and maybe that would be good. But no, exactly as you said, Vic, I was in corporate. I am a CPA, which is an accountant, certified professional accountant. So been, I say numbers are what I trained in, but I actually traded them in 10 years ago for people. And so I've always been a student of leadership, always loved leadership. There's no question there. Always learning, of course, but just really fascinated by people. We're all very uniquely different, as I'm sure you appreciate. And so just looking for how to have a little bit of an impact. So as I said, it's been 10 years now since I created Executive Impact, and it was my last corporate role that kind of brought me here was a recruiting firm. That's where I was the operating officer. And the one thing that I was able to witness through that was a lot of highs, right? Where we'd see our recruiters with their clients and they got the best job or they got the promotion or, something really exciting happened for them. And it was pretty cool. I'm on the sidelines, of course, so it wasn't my role, but to witness that was powerful. But I also saw the downside where a lot of people were displaced from companies. And sadly, quite a few of them didn't really know why. Now, as a coach, I can probably tell you, if we're coaching with them, they probably did have a sense, but more in their subconscious than conscious. But I really just kind of went on this mission to go, it doesn't have to be this way. We can have incredible leadership. We can be uniquely different as people. We don't all have to be in the same boat, but as long as we're all moving the, positive direction. So that's kind of where Executive Impact came from. And it's been a really fun 10 years. So thank you for having me here today.
My pleasure. If you could choose one client type, let's say to help, who you can best help, right? Based on your experience and based on the folks that you've tried to help so far, who energizes you the most? Who allows you to do your best work? We obviously can't help all potential clients equally well. Some are in different situations and so forth. So who are you able to help best, let's say?
So it sounds like a trick question in a way, but it's actually fairly simple for me. It's really somebody that's willing and open to learn. And that sounds simplistic. I know that, but there's a difference. And so I've had the pleasure, I've worked in about 23 different industries now in this consulting role and coaching role. I've worked from, I think my smallest business is about $1 million. My largest is about 600 million right now. I had trouble at first. I'll be really honest. I come from a global organization. So first doing startups, I was like, oh, how do you do this? Right, in the sense that I'd want to overprocess it because I'm like, well, I know what a couple 100 million looks like. Let's go do that. So trying to find fit for purpose. Like if I took anything over the 10 years, it was, how do I meet people where they're at? How am I always looking for bigger scale, bigger futures, find their goals, but then trying to get it back to fit for purpose. So what is helpful for them? So when people are open to learning, they're willing to challenge, they have dreams and we all get stuck and all that. That's wonderful. When I have clients that say they want one thing and every action is the absolute opposite, I'm like, it's okay. I can love you from afar. It's
Mm.
okay. So it's not necessarily really the industry or the way, because the one thing I found, which I didn't know, so I was kind of fascinated by working with so many different industries. The one thing that's common about all of them, it takes people. And people all are the same. We want to be seen. We want to know we matter. We want to contribute. We want to have fulfilling lives. And that stays the same, but we all got to find our right place and where we belong and how we do that. And so really it comes down to who's ready to go for the ride, and I'm happy to be along there with them. So I don't know if that's exactly what you're looking for, but that would actually be the way I look at it.
Well, my interpretation is that your coaching, let's say, is maybe more or less revenue or industry agnostic, as long as you're able to help people and as long as they're willing to help themselves.
There you go. Perfect. Vicky, you should just talk for me. That was brilliant.
Okay. Well, my research is working out here. Now I see that you have some free coaching, or let's say like entry-level coaching, but you also have a 12-week program. That's your flagship program, I believe, Integrator's Edge, which is about $3,000. And you also do paid one-on-one coaching, I think. Walk me through, please, your offers and how you think about the pricing model for your particular business.
Yeah, and probably there's also a little different. So you don't see it there yet, Vic. So it'll probably be behind the background, sitting there, ready for us to turn on. But actually, the program I've been working on the hardest in the last year, in the sense of program, so more to your specific audience, is actually the Impact Leadership Program. And it in that case, you're actually put with a cohort. So we kind of take the best things of what's a mastermind group look like, what is some content that goes along with it. And so we have coaching. So we have group coaching, one-on-one coaching, some training, and we deliver it. Typically my network's a little bit not necessarily local. And so we're using a lot of Zoom. If we can get together, that's always our preference. But we tend to do that. So trying to take sort of the best of a whole bunch of different things and put it together. So that's what we're looking at. In the case of that, I don't know if you're looking for pricing, as you said. So it's $6,000. You're spending 10 months with these different people. They have accountability buddies. There's partners. There's a lot of different things going on in that program. So that one's really powerful. The Integrator's Edge it's designed and filmed actually to be a self model. And the whole thing behind that one. So we didn't take that we could take that as an in-classroom. But it was more like, maybe we'll launch that one digitally. And the whole premise behind that is, so I told you first, I'm an accountant. So when we say work-life balance, this is probably being geek of me, that means it balances like 50-50. Right. And so what I found in my whole career, I was chasing this thing going, I keep doing it wrong. I can't get to 50-50. Like, what's wrong with me? And a lot of self-doubt. And then I went, why does it have to be 50-50? And where I really found sort of peace, maybe I would say success, was knowing what to integrate, which means when I look at my day, it's what's the most important thing for me first. And I think about, how do I prioritize that? How do I make it happen? So, I could be traveling a lot, doing a lot of work, but I'm not going to miss something that's really important to my kid or to my family or something else like that. And so getting rid of the word balance for me was a freedom to get to integration. And that's what that program's all about. And then, as you said, so I don't have that up on digital platform. We just finished filming that again last year. So we've had a few visions. I delivered it live for the first while. I think it's something that we could do definitely digitally. And then in regards to the one-on-one coaching, I do quite a bit of one-on-one, generally executive entrepreneurs, founders, or I take the whole executive team. Nice. So it can be sometimes a one person, sometimes my teams are 12 people. And so then I spend quite a bit of time actually on strategy, doing a lot of delivery work, a lot of execution. And so it kind of just lets me bounce into any part of their business. But the thing I don't leave on the cutting room floor is ever leadership. So it's constantly present, constantly being worked on, and constant learning. Does that answer what you're looking for, Vic, or are you looking for something more specific?
No, thank you for sharing that, Barb. That was great. And it just leads me to want to ask a bit of a touchy question, I suppose, but I feel obliged to ask it. from professional duty, which is in the coaching realm in general, or in any business, but in, let's say, coaching in specific, business in general. How do you measure results for your clients? How do you set things up in a way that they feel like they're getting their money's worth? And it doesn't have to be specific to your business, but just in general, how do you make this kind of business work in a way to where everybody feels like they're winning?
Absolutely. So a couple of things are in there, Vic, and not a touchy subject at all, actually. So very comfortable with the question. It's about them, not me, is where I'm going to start it. So when we talk about how do we measure client success, or how do the clients determine value, or whatever might be in that pricing, we'll spend, first of all, I always do a free discovery session. And a lot of coaches will do this because one of the things that we're looking for from a coaching perspective is if I'm not the right person for you. So let's say, being a female, if I remind you of an ex-wife, an ex-girlfriend, someone you didn't like in school, whatever, just don't hire me. And there's a real piece to being, it's okay. Like, I would actually push you away first to see if it's right for you to come back, not as a sales strategy, but it'll be a block for the individual if there's something there, right, that's not saying right. So it starts there. And then from there, though, we do a strategy session. What are they trying to achieve? So it's not about me or what I achieve. It's, can I help them get to their goals? So the measurement of success actually becomes pretty easy. We either got there or we didn't. And, so I'm there to be with them. I use two different hats. There's one of the misconceptions often, I come from a sports background. And so most people, and I did for sure, would think of coaching as like a sports. We're going to come and we're going to build it up for you. Mm-hmm. In coaching, it's actually very different. In pure coaching, the idea is that I would come to you, let's say if I was coaching with you, Vic, as an empty vessel, meaning I'm not bringing my experience, my wisdom, my baggage, my junk drawer. I'm not bringing any of that to you. I become like the Indiana Jones to your story and trying to help you discover what's right for you, not what's right for me, what's right for you. So we use those techniques when a person has blocked themselves, or they might have a limiting belief, or something else is happening for them. We'll use that type of a technique. The other one that I happen to have the pleasure of using as well is I do a lot of mentorship. And only because I've had this wonderful opportunity, especially now consulting as well. So I worked for a global, did a lot of different things, now work with all these different companies. A lot of people are like, no, can you bring that wisdom? Can you bring that experience? Can you tell me about your failures? Can you tell me what I should be thinking that I never even thought of, because I don't even know what I don't know. And so quite often I have the pleasure of saying, I tripped here before. This is what I screwed up. Or, hey, I've seen this before. This is how they solved it in one industry. That won't directly translate to your industry, but I bet you could translate it for yourself. What does that look like? And so you can bring a lot of different information to help people innovate, and advance their companies. So again, that success piece is, in my mind, pretty easy because it's about them. And if it's about me, I'm probably in the wrong role.
And I think that also subsumes the idea that you're setting objective, measurable goals of something.
Always. Yeah. Yeah. So one of the pleasures I had, and you kind of mentioned it too, I had the opportunity, and I still do, I subcontract to this company called Results Canada that you mentioned in my briefing. And there we're known for execution specialty. So I spend all of my time with their clients. That's what we're there for, is how do we teach execution, accountability? How do we have vision, strategy? How do we tie in our leadership? How do we tie in our people to achieve something bigger? So from execution, we need clarity, right? We need agreement. We need a path forward. We need some tracking, some posting. We borrow some work from John Spence, who is an execution leader, and we follow a lot of his framework. And so I'm able to use that in my coaching. And then through my coaching certification, there's lots of different accountability tips and tricks, I guess. I don't know what you would call it, that help people. So if I could say it this way, maybe from an execution standpoint, there's a process. There's a process of accountability, and there's a way to take people through. You set your bigger goals, and you make them smaller, and then you set them even smaller yet, and you check in, and you have all these things. But from a coaching side, so you have all that, but from a coaching side, we're looking for how to take you from external motivation, which would be, this is the best way to do it, this is your best practice, into, hey, Vic, what's right for you? And how do I help you figure out how to take this best practice and make it perfect for you? And maybe it's not even perfect. Maybe it's just right for you today, and next year you need something else. So I think having those two skill sets of what can we do for best practice, and then what can we do to make that intrinsic, that internal motivation show up, I think that's where the power lies.
Yeah, that's fascinating because you've got all of the technical elements, the techniques, the judo of, or jujitsu of how to do things that have been sort of discovered through trial and error over the years. And then you've got the person who needs to do those things. And are they also, let's say, in the subjective world of their mind and their life, are they able to execute those things effectively? I mean, you can have a to-do list and you may not know that you need to prioritize and execute. There's a leadership principle from Extreme Ownership Academy, which is one of our great
love
clients,
that.
right? And then you also need to take extreme ownership, right? Another leadership principle. So this to-do list, it's kind of a lifeless thing, and you, through your understanding and through your discipline, training, breathe life into it and actually give it meaning and make it, transform it into results for yourself and your business.
Yeah. And you're totally right, Vic. And where the nuance is in that, the life that gets sort of breathed into it, as you would say, it will be different for each person or each leader. So you might find, so it'll be interesting. I had one company that, the leaders we're really having trouble growing, and we're having trouble moving, and you go through everything else, and I'm like, hey, you got a revenue problem, what's going on there? And finally what we discovered through again, different methodologies was that they believed that the board's sales was dirty. They believed that revenue was dirty. And I'm like, okay, let's talk about that. So that might have been for one person, or another person might be like, oh my gosh, I love the art of the deal and I kick butt at revenue. But they didn't think about how to put some of that in their pocket, maybe down at EBITDA. Let's think about, how do you make money? How does your company thrive? So the life, I think the difference is exactly to your point. I love the way you said that. The life that gets breathed, I know it's a weird word of the word, but breathed into it, however the right phrasing of that is, context, needs to come from the client, not from me.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, that would make a good podcast name, The Self-Loathing Capitalist, right?
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, good point. Oh, very good. I'm writing that one down.
Now, how much of your revenue, so kind of getting back to your, let's say your business model and your pricing, how much of the revenue that you have is recurring in the sense that it rebills on a regular basis versus, what would we call it? Episodic.
Yep.
Maybe it's new customers, but you have some kind of reliable recurring way to acquire them. And how much of it is, one-off engagements, and obviously recurring revenue is the holy grail, although it's a two-way street, I suppose, as well, with a coaching relationship. How does that break down in your business?
Yeah. So long recurring. So I have so I've been out on my own, like I said, 10 years. And the first year worked towards a leadership event, trying to build a footprint and then from there, though, I've had customers and clients that have been 9 years, 8 years, 7 years, 6 years. So I've been very fortunate that way. Now, a little bit though, I think why I have that, just to be really transparent for anyone that might be listening and going, well, how do you do that? It's because I have the whole client, in the sense I might have their strategy for their business, their vision work, and their coaching or their leadership training or something else. So it's really about, how can I bring every skill set I have, meet them where they're at, and continue to evolve and upgrade with them. So as even a simple thing that just so people might be able to catch really quickly, well, let's say we're going to go into a strategy session. I literally could, nowadays I could go chat GPT and I literally could type in, build me a strategy session. And would it? Sure. Would it say how to facilitate? Sure. Probably do a pretty good job of it, honestly. The difference is, sort of back to what you said, I'm trying to bring everything that I have with me, because it's not about here's a agenda item or here's something we have to do. It's about how much I research their industry. I spend a lot of time with them. I get to know them. I know their kids. I know, if I'm working with with the gentleman CEO, I know his wife. Like I try really hard to get to know my clients and evolve with them. So if the business is growing, which most people come to me because they want growth, they're not saying, "Hey, can I go backwards? That'd be fun." Like that's not what they're doing. That usually there's something else exciting going on. You know, we might do an M&A, we might do an expansion to just another country, we might look at a new product line. But in every step of the way, it takes a different level of leadership. It takes a different level of execution, extreme ownership over the concept's the same, but as the game gets bigger, that's harder. You know, it's extreme ownership is I'm an individual and I can make it happen. That's easy. Extreme ownership as, ooh, I have 1,000 people I got to move. How the heck am I going to do that? And I am responsible. Right? It changes the game a little bit. So I think it's a lot about how do we evolve with people? How do we, again, meet them where they're at? You know, when I think about services or what I want to offer, you know, if you and I were in a session, I'd be like, hey, where's your target market? You know, how much available market do you have to sell? We'd be doing all those things. And mine's more like going, hey, where are you at? Can I be useful? And so if you're trying to just be useful, I find that there's a lot for me to do and people are happy to invite me in.
And so are any of your engagements, let's say, do you charge monthly, or do you have people pay for a year up front? Like, how does the actual revenue model work?
Yeah, so let's say with just because then this might be helpful to people. So let's say like this Results Canada, let's say a subcontract for, they would generally be contracting their clients 15 months in advance, right? And so they'll do a longer one, and obviously it has a price tag to it and all this type of thing. I just am delivering with them and partnering with their clients. So let's say a difference for me might be if I was with a client, one of the things I very purposely do is I don't make them sign a contract. And I'm very upfront about why I don't. I'm like, especially if it's on coaching, because sometimes for people, the penny will drop. Like they'll say, hey, I want to get to here. And we'll say, okay, what does success look like? Well, how do we get there? How will you know when you've arrived? Right back to that, like you said, return on, did you get value of it? But that penny might drop session 2. That penny might drop session 10. Might not drop for 2 years, depending on how fast they're willing to move with it, right? So I kind of, how I do it is I generally ask people to book me in advance so that we get a rhythm. Because if you don't have a consistent rhythm, it's like starting over again every time. So that's a waste of money and time for everybody. So we'll book the calendar. And then at the end of each session, I'm like, have I earned the right to have the next meeting? And it kind of keeps some pressure on me to earn the right every single time. And I think that's okay.
I love the way you put that, Barb. I have the same philosophy. We offer annual billing, but we don't have any contracts. One, because I feel like it's unnecessarily bureaucratic. You know, we're either delivering for you or we're not. But
right.
I always say to clients, like, you're free to come and go as you please. This is an open relationship, if you will. We want to earn your business. We want to be the best choice that you choose every month, not because you're locked into a contract. And that's worked out pretty good.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was very fortunate, like even though, and maybe it's a part of premise, like I was also very fortunate with the work, let's say I do for Results. Like, yes, they would have contracts or whatever. But one thing I've been fortunate there is their leadership believes in their clients first. And so when they've had to do something different, they do something different. When they have to respond, whether they need a different consultant, whether they need whatever. So I think to your point, if it's just rigid and litigious, like if it's litigious, you know, like we're going to hold you in contract so we can charge you. I just don't know if that works with people.
Right.
You know, and for coaching, again, I don't want to put a deadline on what they say their success is. They'll tell me their deadline.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I love that your firm does the same kind of idea. It's awesome.
Definitely. What is your funnel architecture? In other words, how do you get customers?
I know what you
mean. How do you upsell? Do you upsell, cross-sell them? Is there a predictable way to maximize customer value, let's say, or average cart order value?
It's just so interesting, Rick. So when I first started consulting and being an accountant, we're not typically salespeople. And I wasn't a big social media person. I've had, you know, and I'd still say I could use a lot of work and keep my footprint there. But I spent a lot of time thinking about funnels, spent a lot of time educating myself, trying to understand it, think of the algorithms, think how it will be. Is it top of funnel? Is it middle of funnel? How do they, and move through that. So in the sense of, if I was talking to clients, I'm like, okay, we want a mechanism of repeatable success. And how do we create repeatable success, whether there's a human involved or not, in the sense of our systems? And then we'll use leadership to apply our people. Where I have been blessed, fortunate, great, just so grateful for whatever it might be, is I've been working with the results for 9 years now. So I've been able to keep continuing to show up for their clients. So that's been very good for me. So a lot of people will network into other consulting firms. And then what's been really fortunate for me is my clients refer. And so typically we would say, referrals, you got to be careful. Referrals are beautiful. Oh my gosh, right? Like nothing better than having a referral. But referral bases usually run out, right? Because they do. If you only know so many friends, I can only introduce so many of my friends to you, Vic, and then you might run out. But since I've had the retention so high, it actually doesn't take that many referrals to keep my business extremely busy and full. And so then the key is to not drop the ball. I try to do that.
Right. And okay, so then what I'm hearing is that results handles the funnel for you in a sense.
For their clients. I have my own as well. Yeah.
You have your own clients as well, right? And then the way that you ensure high LTV is just by being awesome.
Well, yeah, that kind of helps, right? Yeah. And so just to kind of make that easier for people. So when I first came out of corporate, I just dove into leadership and only leadership. And so for a year, that's all it was, a business partner. And then she went back to corporate, which is totally fine. And wasn't sure, had to rebrand, had to rethink about the funnels was going to offer. Kicked off Executive Impact and then signed with Results to just go, hey, I need some community around me. What do I do? And then I've just been very fortunate that they treat me very well. They have a great business. They have awesome clients, amazing community. And so I hope that, they're never totally gone from my life for whatever that means. But at the same time, I always had a dream to build my own, to do part of it. So I also watch. So for anyone listening, I also watch how much of my business that they have. So again, happy to be associated, love them to death, can't be grateful enough. But I was just one of my own. So I try to do quite a bit on my own, and I have my own community and lots of referrals through that as well. So it's been good.
Amazing. Now, coaching is inherently, maybe in the age of Zoom, not so inherently time for money, or let's say it's more of a scalable thing, certainly. And you have a self-paced program that you mentioned. I believe Integrator's Edge is self-paced, right?
Yeah.
So you've talked about in your work the myth of work-life balance. And it's funny because when you were talking about that initially, it made me think of Dan Pena, who screams at the camera in a very enthusiastic way that there's no such thing as work-life balance.
Right.
And I find that to be true. It's more like a work-life integration, I suppose. But anyway, that's a bit off topic. How do you scale the business, and how do you personally manage growing executive impact while not being, let's say, a victim to the same burnout that you coach others to avoid?
Yeah. So I'm going to say, Vic, if I could be a prize pupil, I'd love to be. And there are times. So one, I'm my own worst enemy a little bit in the sense, I love what I do. Absolutely love what I do. And when I see someone come to me and say, I want to achieve this, and to be beside them and to witness that and to help and support and encourage and poke and prod and whatever we got to do, and see them get there, and then they realize how much more they can do, it's pretty addictive. Like, it's really cool to see people live their dreams. So that is hard for me because I really love what I do. In regards to scaling and stuff, you're right in the sense of when it's coaching, you are kind of trading dollars for hours. And any business, and I'm sure yours would be the same, Vic, in the sense that I think it's Jim Collins that brought this in, that said, it didn't matter what business they looked at, it's profit per, or something like it's X, like profit per X, for any business as a basis. And if you watch that one KPI, you may have 3,000 KPIs, hopefully not. But if you just watch that. So in a coaching world, Unfortunately, it's usually profit per hour because that's all we have to sell. So the difference of having a one-on-one coaching versus a group, as you could appreciate, an hour is worth very different amounts of money in those two scenarios. For me personally, so you might have some people that will choose, which is, that's fine, that's great, that they will only do groups, or they'll only do programs, or they'll do something else that scales a different way to give time back. I kind of like my blend. So I love working with some people one-on-one to hit some really cool goals. I love working with executive teams to challenge them to reach way further than they thought. I love teaching leadership. And so sometimes I do that. I sometimes speak, and I'll be going to different conferences if I can. For me, the variety is probably what's extremely stimulating. Does the variety allow you to have the most profit? Probably not.
That's not what you're
Probably not
necessarily.
Yeah, so it's kind of like you got to figure out what's right for you. And originally when I built Executive Impact, I had this dream about like, oh, there's going to be like 20 coaches. And there's going to be this massive team and we're going to have all this impact. And the interesting, and I hope we do, at the same time, though, it's hard to replicate individuals. And in coaching, there's no real barrier for entry. So anybody could really say, hey, I'm a coach. Now you'll find out whether it's a good coach, bad coach, good accountant, bad accountant. Unfortunately, you find that out otherwise. But this has just been a dream, and how I get my integration, just going back to that for a second, is I can work from anywhere. So my clients aren't always local. Some of them are stretched out into other countries. Some are across Canada, some are whatever. So I use a lot of Zoom, which means I can be anywhere with my family. And it's quite a pleasure. But yeah, scaling, again, if you want to do it, then it would be optimize it, obviously. Push it. For me, I'm doing all right. It's okay. I'm liking it.
Barb, two things. Thank you for sharing that. And two things sort of spawned in my mind as you were saying that as well, which is that I've seen this time and again, and the more interviews that I do for Member Fix Radio, the more that I see an opportunity around pricing that I'd like to share with the audience, which is that if you're doing any kind of coaching or any kind of delivering some kind of program that depends upon you, and as you said, you're irreplaceable or unique, and a lot of times also if you're the figurehead of the business, you're also really what people want. They want access.
Yes.
To you because you're the charismatic leader, so to speak, right? And what that does is that enables you to, let's say in a very basic way, you've got your one-on-one coaching, right? Or maybe you do live events that you facilitate, right? You've got some kind of maybe hybrid coaching, which would be like a group coaching, maybe with some kind of e-learning in the mix, right? And then you've got self-paced, which you're not personally involved in, or your coaches aren't personally involved in. And the beauty of this kind of model, or the opportunity that I see for coaches, is that you can position the pricing in such a way where access to you is the premium tier. One-on-one coaching
absolutely
is the premium tier, right?
Yeah.
Hybrid coaching would be like the middle ground, right? Because that requires a little less time of you and your facilitators, co-facilitators, but it still requires your personal input. And you've got the self-paced, which doesn't require input at all, but still replicates those results to a degree. And the beauty of that model is that anytime you're in a sales conversation, and you can always anchor with your most premium offer, if it's appropriate, of course, if it's a good fit. And then when somebody says, wow, that's too much money, or I don't know, you say, well, look, we've got this hybrid coaching thing that would also work really well for you and fit your budget. So, I don't know, that's too much. Well, we got this self-paced. So you can anchor price, and then you can downsell and still respect people's sort of budgets and boundaries.
Exactly. And Vicky, you said a very important word that people might not pick up on. The way you said it is the anchoring. If you anchor to your lowest offering, that's where the negotiation stays.
Yeah.
Right. And so like negotiate 101 kind of thing, right? But you don't think about it often. So that's a really important word. And you'll see this in real life. Like it's even for you and I, right? We can say, okay, where in this world does this exist? It's not like something that I created or you just came up with. Like if you look at let's take someone that most people will know, Tony Robbins, right? You can look at his, and again, you can have it self-paced. You can go to virtual events. You can go in-person events. You can have his coaches at his events. It's not always him. It's his associates. They have a youth program. Tony doesn't show up, and his people do, and they use his videos, of course, and his training and his methodology. But there's lots of different places. And so, I think what he's achieved, there's that optimization, that price point, like you're saying, the way to on for people. But, I would hope from him as well, it's about, again, how do you meet people where they're at and just get them started somewhere? Like just start moving and because we get stuck. And I think we can help anybody move, and it happens to be also good for business. Giddy up. Right? I don't know.
That'll be the tweet associated with this podcast. Quote, giddy up.
Giddy up. I love it. I'd be okay with that.
Okay, and so you're speaking of movement, what are one or two things maybe that you've done in this business, in executive impact, that's really moved the needle, either in terms of not necessarily profit or revenue, because it doesn't sound like that's your North Star in and of itself, but maybe it could be results for your clients or an increase in your own freedom, as you mentioned, you get to travel with your family. What's something that's moved the needle for you?
Yeah, so if I took the family side first, my family is really important to me. And this job, like, again, allows me to travel, allows me to be with them, allows me to provide a lot for them, which has been wonderful and get to still important things. Corporately, I traveled a ton as well, but then a little bit, it's like, oh, I have to be there versus I get to choose to be there. So that's a little bit different. For me personally, I've had to learn a lot of it's like, oh, can I do this or that? This or that. I think, again, back to that accountant, maybe debit, credit, where I'm like, oh, can I do that and this? Oh, I can. That's cool. So that's certainly fun. And for me, and again, I'm going to get clients because they're the most important, obviously, but the one thing that most people might not suspect, or maybe they just smarter than me and they would, is I can't believe how much I've grown because of my clients. And you don't really think about that, right? You think about, oh, I'm selling what I have, or I'm selling my services. I can deliver the same content in the sense of a leadership course, but it would never be the same, ever, because the participants make it different, what their experiences are. So allowing space for people, like sometimes I'm like, wow, I'm thanking them for the experience because my growth has been so huge, like through them, right? So that's super cool. And then for clients, I've seen, I've been fortunate enough to see teams like break through barriers that they never thought was possible. Again, I just feel honored to witness it. It's their effort, right? I'm not there doing it for them. So it's not me, it's them, but giving them the confidence. Like when someone says to me, Barb, what do you sell? I think that's how I'd have to almost summarize it. It's the confidence. They know what they're capable of, and they're capable of more than they think they are. And giving them the confidence to go try it, giving them the confidence that, hey, you got this, the confidence that they know they had other choices, but they chose the one that was right for them. I don't know. It's kind of that MasterCard priceless kind of idea.
So to distill your answer in terms of what's moved the needle, if I may, I would say that it sounds like very Elon Musk-y in the sense that you're just improving the product, which is your ability to help your clients continually refining and iterating on that. And you just show up for them and they move the needle and you both benefit.
Totally. Because if it's, and not to say that, sure, I'll impart some learning and some wisdom and stuff, but that's just knowledge. Like that's why, a lot of my clients have been nervous about AI, of course, and how it might disrupt their business or how it might change or what's going to happen. Sure, it's going to change it. It absolutely will. The difference is, though, is you can't replace the human piece of, like, again, you could chat everything and say, oh, this is how I get to the goal. The human still has to get there. And as humans, we block ourselves. Again, we bring all of our baggage with us, and it kind of disrupts us. And so having someone that says, hey, did you notice that that's what you're doing? Did you notice what you just said? And helping them get past their blocks so they can take it. Because knowledge is there. But I think AI, what's going to do is, there's always been a gap between knowing and doing. I don't think that gap gets closer together with AI. I think it just explodes.
Yeah.
And it's like, I have vast amounts of knowledge. Now what? what the heck am I going to do? So yeah, so I like what you say. It's about constantly learning, and maybe that's why I love it because it challenges the crap out of me, which is awesome. It's great.
Yeah, actually, it's funny that you say that about AI because I interviewed a really interesting lady named Debbie Caudle, and she is a therapist,
Nice.
licensed therapist, and she essentially left uh, therapy practice and started her own coaching, which is,
Huh.
has like a therapeutic component to it. I
Yep.
suppose it's faith-based coaching
Beautiful.
slash therapy, and she kind of productized it, and it was just super interesting because I asked her, I said, "Are you worried about AI? Because you can go talk with ChatGPT about that tiff you had with your
Yeah.
husband or wife. Of course, it's quite obsequious. It just, oh, you were right, 100%.
Yes, it's very agreeable. It tells
Very
me I'm brilliant
agreeable,
all the
yeah.
time.
But it doesn't have emotion, at least not yet. Or maybe one day it will, right? But it doesn't see your body language. It doesn't see that your shoulders are tense or that you're angry and that you're not being reasonable or objective or that you're in your feelings. You need humans for that. And if anything, this is something that my coach for a long time, James Shremko, said that the human component is actually becoming exponentially more valuable because of AI.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, 100%. 100%. Right. Because it's the same thing as even if we like with us humans, we all have blind. So just about every coach I know, we all have coaches because we know the power of we can't see our own blind spots. That's why they're called blind spots. So having someone on that journey, like you won't necessarily know what to ask chat. Right? You could even say, hey, prompt me some questions. That might help, but will it fully get you there? Or to hear the tone and go, whoa, whose voice was that? Because I don't think that was yours. Where did that come from? Or if we take it something that people might relate to a little bit easier in business, again, that's best practice. If everything went exactly how it went, well, any business owner will tell us, right? And as a business owner, it never goes exactly the way we think. So it's great we have best practices. Love it. I love it. I rely on it a lot, but I need to figure out how does it work for me? How am I, if I'm the business owner, going to find my way through that? What do I need? And most likely it's not, we're not there yet, to your point, where it says, well, Barb, knowing you, do this instead. Oh, okay. I just don't think we're there yet.
100%. Now, the way I found you, Barb, to be super
Yeah.
transparent, is that
I was wondering.
I saw that you're using LearnDash, and my team and I were LearnDash experts, right? So I saw you're using WooCommerce, you're using Uncanny, all these great plugins, and tech is a big part of deploying your programs and your offerings. What has been the biggest tech headache that you've dealt with? Like, what would you love to, or what do you hand off to somebody and so that you can stay in your lane, or do you do everything yourself? How do you handle the tech gremlins?
Yeah, definitely don't do everything myself. Initially started that way though, because I just didn't know what it was. And so I tend to be a person when I'm like, I don't know what it is. And so I could just totally hire it and put my hands off. But then I'm still nowhere further along. So I'll still hire people because I'm very happy of saying, hey, I'm not the expert here. Like that doesn't bother me at all. I'm not intimidated by that. Someone could be better than me all day long. But I'm interested in learning how. Like I have a really high curiosity. And so I want to understand it. So coming from corporate, first of all, one of the things I realized, which was interesting, at corporate, we throw bodies at problems. We don't throw technology. Now with AI, I think that is changing, but that was one of the biggest things coming to sort of that entrepreneurial side. I was like, I can't afford people. Well, how the heck am I going to do this? And then I started to discover all the technology. And then it was a little overwhelming. I'm just going to be really honest. I'm just like, now it's too much. Like, I don't even know how to interpret this. I don't know how to understand this. And I had to learn the word tech stack. That wasn't really a word I knew coming out of corporate, which probably sounds funny, but go back 10 years though, too, right? And thinking about how are we going to stack those technologies together and then trying to figure out, oh, well, this one talks better with this one, or, these ones speak the same language. Oh, that's better. Or, I'm going to customize a site. Well, I'd rather have WordPress because I can just do so much with it. Like there's all those different things. So it was a very, probably just painful learning I'm going to be honest. I had some great people that helped me. But as an example, here's a painful learning. I had one of the things I wanted to create when I was doing more just coaching was it was really important for me to have community. And I tend to use a lot of different materials, like whether or not it's something I've read, something I've researched, something I've seen before, something I've screwed up before. It doesn't really matter. But I wanted to have this coaching platform that, let's say, Vic, if it was you and I, and there was something you needed, you could always go back to that information. But you could also see who else in the group might beg similar information. And you could start, building community with them and how can we help each other. And again, just look at that impact. And there wasn't technology at the time that did exactly what I wanted it to do.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm like, okay. So I actually hired a couple programmers and we built it. And so I was like, this is cool. I don't have a clue how to do that. Spent a lot of time and money, as it is. And then then I worked with a new marketing firm and they're like, we're having trouble putting the rest of the tech stack into this. They don't talk. This is too customized. This doesn't have, I was like, oh my gosh. And I had like this epiphany moment going, why the heck do I think I know anything about technology and I'm not a technology company. So knowing who you are as a company, I'm not a tech company. So there's no way I could keep up with it. So why would I ever build it myself? Like, I was just like, that was really dumb, Barb. How could I have done something different? So there's people much smarter to do those different things, back to your point. But yeah, so trying to just figure out which ones would talk well together, which ones play nice in the sandbox. Always kind of looking at the tech though, because it advances so fast. Yeah. And now the AI. So I played with different funnel ones as well. Different ones that you didn't even mention that I had in there. Sometimes I went, oh, that's hard. That doesn't talk to this. So unfortunately, I had a lot of trial and error, which probably other people did. So it's kind of cool what you do there, Vic. It's good. They just hire you. How's that? There's my plug for you. Just hire you.
Yeah, just hire us. I agree.
Yeah, there we go.
And well, so you mentioned, and this is also like a huge leadership principle, right? Is that you can only go so far on your own, which is not very far actually. Although some people are amazingly good at being solo execute, but they're certainly the exception rather than the rule, I would say. Yeah. So, obviously you want to stay in your lane as much as possible to the degree that it's financially feasible, right? So you, let's say, hire freelancers or agencies or whoever to help you with your tech, with your marketing. And I believe you also have a small coaching team that you're building up. So talk to me about your team and how you distribute the efforts of your organization to stay efficient and also lean, right? Because as you said, in corporate, there's a lot of approvals. There's maybe a board. There's maybe, is it compliant to this thing and to that thing? It's a huge bureaucracy. But when you're small, you can be agile.
Yes. Yeah, and it's kind of been a combination in the sense of so one of the things that we'll do, let's go this best practice and then this fit to purpose, because then we'll kind of figure it out, right? So I might use a tool called a role scorecard, and it's really about figuring out, once you have your vision where you want to go, then we need a strategy of how do we get from where we are to where we want to go, and then to me, then we need the organizational chart. So I kind of go vision, strategy, structure. And I often think of it like a hockey team. If they pull their goalie, I'm going to change my lines. If we go on, we have a penalty, I'm going to change my lines. So structure needs to evolve with strategy. So the strategy evolved. I was really aware and started saying, okay, as a solopreneur, how many roles? So when I think about the vision, what roles do I need? And then how many am I wearing? So at some point, right, I had 7. So I had that I was delivering. I had that I'm the accountant because God did the books. I had where I'm the marketing person, right, and trying to do the social media. I had where I'm trying to drum up business and I'm the BD person, And so there's all these different hats. And then how I tried to figure out how to scale it was, so I wrote out what those roles are so I could understand and conceptualize what it could be in the future. And then I started just assigning my time to it. And then as there's more and more time, I'm like, holy, my administrative hat is really getting big. Well, if I'm doing administration, it means I can't be with my clients. Where am I most powerful? With my clients. Okay, so then that would be the first role then that I hired. How do I help someone do that and just get them scheduled and taken care of with client success? Or, okay, now we need something bigger in marketing. We're probably not going to hire that because we're just not big enough. We'll use a firm or a freelancer or whatever it might be. So I tend to look outwards and think about, how am I going to get there? So I build up my belief that I can. And then I'll start at the base and say, but where am I right now? Because the thing about business is you are in business to make money. That's how we count it. We're monopoly, right? Whoever's the most money, I guess, wins in a way. But I want to do it for the best of the people. I want to do it for the impact on the humanity, and everything else. But that's how we keep score. So it's like, what does the business allow for, and how do we kind of build up from there?
Amazing.
I don't know if that answers your question, but
yeah, for sure.
That's the way I think of it.
The thing I found fascinating is you said you'd hire for client success first, because that's the critical area of the business, and then you look at like admin and marketing. Usually people are looking at that backwards or the other way around. I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah, well, like I said, I was fortunate to have some clients and then be referred. So if I can't deliver for them, that's going to be a fail point. So I kind of just thought of that first. How do we take care of them? How do we make that easy? How do we, take out any friction points that we can take? How do we help them move faster towards their goals? Very focused on what is their goals, not ours.
Yes, amazing.
And I think that's kind of a hard one, and especially in coaching, though, it's the moment it's about me, it means my ego's in the way. It has to be about them, and that's the only way I've been able to find success.
That actually makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, different industries could be different, right? But yeah.
Okay, very cool. Okay, so wrapping up now, Barb, what does the future hold for Executive Impact, and for you, what is the next big lift or push that you'd like to see happen?
So I think this new one, like the Impact Leadership Program, and again, whether we keep that name, but we ran our first cohort through and they now handpicked, right? So handpicked people with invitation only into that. And we had a phenomenal experience, and so did I. Like, again, I learned so much from these people. And so now thinking about, does that same essence transfer to strangers? And how do we give the stranger, and they were all strangers to each other, though. I was the only common. And so I'm very interested to think about, how do we build rapport? How do we bring other people together? How do we foster that more? And just see what we can do with it. So it's so that's kind of my fun one. It just gets me time to geek out with other people and learn from them too. And so probably spend the most there. And then I want to challenge myself to a TEDx. I can't say I'm going to be on TED yet, but I challenged myself to a TEDx. And then I thought I should have a whiskey named after me, an Executive Impact whiskey. I thought that would be fun. Yeah. So yeah, just a lot of fun. I love working with clients that are, that's the other thing I guess, Vic, is important, is I only work with clients that want to do the work and that appreciate having a partner in that. I'm not the hired help. I'm the hired help that's a little bit not interested in that relationship either. I'm here to partner with you, or it's okay. You can find another partner. It's okay. It doesn't hurt my feelings. But it's an important one to me. So I feel like I'm more on their team, right? Yeah.
That's amazing. Thank you so much for sharing, and thanks for coming on Member Fix Radio, and good luck with Executive Impact.
No, thank you, and all the best of luck to you and your business, and just appreciated meeting you and the opportunity. So thank you so much, Vic.